3rd of July 2020. As Keep Our St Helier Hospital, Keep Our Epsom Hospital have long predicted, local NHS bosses have now rubber-stamped their plans to remove all acute services from both Epsom Hospital and St Helier Hospital in favour of a new, smaller, single acute facility located at the Royal Marsden Hospital in Sutton.
It's been confirmed a new hospital will be built in southwest London.
What they haven't explained here is that the proposed new hospital would mean the loss of 2 existing major acute hospitals from the area. Epsom Hospital and St Helier Hospital would cease to be major acute hospitals.
The Specialist Emergency Care Hospital will be built in Sutton at a cost of around £500 million. The decision's been welcomed by many, but there are some patients who are unhappy, saying maternity services elsewhere are being cut. Well, let's get more from Alice Bandakravi, who's in Sutton this evening. Alice.
Victoria, I'm in a car park now, but in 5 years this will be a state-of-the-art emergency hospital.
Notice that they describe it as an emergency hospital. That's because it would not be a hospital in the normal sense. It would be similar to the Northumbria Specialist Emergency Care Hospital, a project which has been in the press for all the wrong reasons. Here's a clip from a report from BBC Look North from the 5th of November 2016, talking about the Northumbria Specialist Emergency Care Hospital, the very place which the Epsom and St Helier Trust have described as their aspiration.
It's a brand new hospital, promoted as the model for emergency care for the rest of the UK. But the Northumbria Hospital at Cramlington is struggling to cope with a number of ambulances arriving on its doorstep. Paramedics are unable to hand over their patients. Instead, they're forced to queue in corridors for hours. Costing £90 million, Cramlington's new state-of-the-art hospital was sold as a better way of delivering emergency care. But is it working?
He's bleeding from the head partly, and he's in a queue of people waiting to get in. That was outrageous.
It's serious. Out of 10, I would say it's 10. It's unacceptable in my view.
And this is the problem. Paramedics queuing sometimes for hours to hand over their patients. Although these pictures were taken more than a year ago, ambulance staff are still routinely waiting to drop off sick people because the hospital can't cope. All of this prompts some questions. Why is a state-of-the-art hospital failing to meet government targets? Centralising emergency care like this is one option for the rest of the country. But is it a model that's really working?
Now, to say that this has been a long story is an understatement. There's been wrangling over what to do about Epsom and St Helier hospitals for the best of the last 20 years. And today, the momentous decision to spend £500 million building a new hospital on this site and refurbishing Epsom and St Helier hospitals, which it must be said are in quite a state.
Refurbishment has been taking place at both Epsom Hospital and St Helier Hospital for the last couple of years, which the Trust claim had cost the taxpayer some £100 million. To describe these hospitals as in quite a state is vague and misleading and cannot be proven one way or the other.
At the height of the coronavirus pandemic, the teams there did their very best to treat patients in poor circumstances. We will be hearing next from a nurse in charge of that who explains how difficult it was, and also from a GP who explains why the decision to build the new hospital on this site.
Again, they have avoided the point that this plan would see both Epsom Hospital and St Helier Hospital lose all of their acute services, including at least A&E, maternity, paediatrics, intensive care, cancer care, coronary care, emergency surgery and emergency medicine.
The environments that we have in Epsom and St Helier do not meet the standards that I would consider to be, or we all would consider to be the environments that we need to look after patients in the best possible way. So staff work really, really hard. They do a really good job at delivering high standards. within the very, very poor environment.
If the facilities at Epsom Hospital and St Helier Hospital are not good enough, that is because those in charge of these hospitals over the last 30 plus years have chosen not to maintain them properly. It's also worth noting that no evidence has been offered to back up this claim. If the NHS has £500 million available, instead of downgrading two existing and well-placed major acute hospitals, why not spend some of the available funding on improving and enhancing the existing hospitals? If the windscreen wipers on your car wore out, you wouldn't sell the car and buy a new one. You'd buy some windscreen wipers.
So the reason we chose Sutton is because it's centrally located between southwest London and Surrey. It has the best impact on travel times across Surrey and Sutton and Merton.
This is simply untrue. The best impact on travel times would be to retain the two existing hospitals at Epsom and St Helier, which are already ideally located close to two major population centres. Under these proposals, most people would need to make longer journeys in the event of an emergency, and that will cost lives.
It allows us to do a new build, so it's quicker to build, it's more cost effective, and also we get to build a brand new hospital and have 3 urgent treatment centres to meet the needs of patients.
The most cost effective solution would be to refurbish, extend and enhance the 2 existing hospitals. But that option was not even included in the pre-consultation business case. Local people currently benefit from 2 major acute hospitals with acute facilities. This proposal would mean that we have only 1 smaller acute facility with only 1 A&E and maternity department. He talks about 3 urgent treatment centres, but it's important to mention that a nurse or GP-led UTC is no replacement for consultant-led accident and emergency departments, which we currently have 2 of. If this plan is allowed to proceed, we would be left with only 1 smaller unit, located further away from most people. It's also important to point out that we currently have 2 full consultant-led maternity departments at both Epsom Hospital and at St Helier Hospital. If this plan were allowed to proceed, we would have only 1 maternity department, which would be further away from most people and staffed by fewer consultant doctors. Anyone trying to persuade you that 1 smaller acute facility, located further away, staffed by fewer doctors and with fewer beds, and which would only be accessible via an emergency ambulance or with a GP referral, is somehow better than our 2 existing major acute hospitals, is either lying or stupid. It's also worth noting that the Epsom and St Helier Trust have already begun selling off their land and buildings for housing, and they have drawn up plans to make further significant land sales. The NHS is the finest creation of any nation, but the current crop of managers seem intent on running it into the ground while using its assets as a cash cow.
But Alice, it seems not everyone's happy.
Yeah, the new hospital here means moving some services from Epsom and St Helier hospitals, and that's a move which some campaigners have been fighting for years.
To clarify, this proposal would not mean moving some services from Epsom and St Helier hospitals. It would mean removing all acute services from both Epsom Hospital and St Helier Hospital. Acute services mean A&E, maternity, paediatrics, intensive care, cancer care, coronary care, emergency surgery and emergency medicine.
I'm most worried about the plan to remove all of acute services, that's A&E, maternity, intensive care, children's care, emergency surgery and medicine, cancer and coronary care out of our 2 major acute hospitals. And I'm concerned that people will die with longer journey times or suffer significant harm waiting to get to a hospital.
Now, that's an accusation I put to the chief executive, and he said this to me. He said, when you dial 99, the most important thing is how long an ambulance takes to get to you, and that when you arrive, you are treated by doctors with the most expertise. And he said that is what will be provided by the new hospital when it opens here in 2025.
OK, Alice, thanks for that update. Thank you.
We're not sure why this question was addressed to the hospital chief executive, Daniel Elkerles, as he is supposedly not a member of the Improving Healthcare Together board. But his answer is both interesting and utterly misleading. This proposal, if enacted, would mean that you could only get into the new single acute facility if you arrived in an emergency ambulance or if you had a referral from your GP. You could not arrive under your own steam. The new facility would be further away from most people, so the ambulance would have further to travel in order to get to you. The current setup is such that you will already be treated by doctors with the most expertise, but this proposal would result in the single new acute facility being staffed by significantly fewer consultant doctors. Improving Healthcare Together's own documents indicate that at least 26 paediatricians and obstetricians would no longer be employed. Your local council has a legal duty to ensure that healthcare provision for you is adequate. Your local council has the ability, and we say the duty, to reject this proposal in its entirety, as it will put people's lives at risk. Write to your council today to demand that the IHT proposal be rejected in its entirety. We have needed 2 major acute hospitals in this area for 80 plus years, and the population has increased enormously in that time, and it's predicted to continue to do so. We certainly need those hospitals now and into the future. The National Health Service is the finest creation of any nation. We have all been thanking our brave NHS workers for their work every Thursday evening. We must not be the generation which allows our greatest asset to be taken away from us.